Hello YouTube, this is Travis Truman. I'm going to discuss today the way societies use word definition manipulation based brainwashing to deceive all their citizen slaves. Now, by word definition manipulation based brainwashing, it simply means that society has changed the legitimate and true definition of some basic key words and replaced them with lie-based, toxic, deceptive definitions. Now, the two groups of words we're going to look at today, folks, are going to be things like discipline and spanking versus assault, and murder versus killing. Now, I think I'll start today, folks, with the latter. Now, societies support murder in various forms, including abortion, war, death penalty, assassinations, and so on. Now, because society itself is guilty of murder, because it's doing the exact same actions, it has to create two words for the exact same action so it can pretend it's not doing them. So it merely kills people. Whereas if an individual was to kill somebody, you'd be somehow a murderer. Now, this is completely illegitimate, folks. The actions are exactly the same, so there isn't any real reason why there should be two terms. Let's have a look at the associatively used definition of the word murder. It is generally defined thus. Okay, the intentional and unlawful killing of a human being with malice aforethought. So basically, we've got a few elements, as I'll bring up on the screen. Okay, it requires one, killing; two, that killing to be of a human being; three, that you did it intentionally; and four, you had some kind of thought beforehand that you were going to attack. Now, although I don't quite agree with part 4, the main disagreement is with the fifth element of murder, and that is the word unlawful. Now, this word, folks, has got absolutely no business being in any dictionary definition. It just doesn't mean anything. It's a completely arbitrary operator. It's not defined at all. It's just saying that the definition is left open and will be decided by some fat cat judge or social leader or politician based on a case-by-case basis. It hasn't defined it at all. I mean, if you take an assassination, or if you take war or suicide, all the various forms of associatively sponsored murder, they just say, oh, well, we declare that lawful. Whereas a different murder, say if you've got in a very real dispute with say, a neighbour, and you killed him, suddenly that's unlawful. But what makes it unlawful or lawful? It just begs the question. There's no legitimate reason ever given. Okay, it's just simply because societies and social leaders want to go around murdering people and sponsoring murder when it suits them, and at the same time they want to then turn around and demonise and persecute people even though they've done exactly the same actions. You see, society commits more murders, is committing murders on a much greater scale than any individual ever possibly could. So therefore, folks, philosophically speaking, there should just simply be one term, and that is murder. And that should apply to all incidences of murder. The word unlawful should not be in the definition of murder. It just shouldn't be in there at all, because it is just simply an arbitrary operator so that somebody's judgment can choose which ones are which based on their personal agenda. Now, moving on to the next example. We have the crime of assault. Now, assault is where you physically hit somebody or you do something like that to cause them usually physical, but can also be emotional and psychological injury. Now, there also, society sponsors physically and emotionally abusing and injuring people in various forms, various sports, rugby, boxing. Well, the particular one I'd like to raise today is with societally sponsored child abuse within the family unit mythology. Now, again, it's the same thing in action. It wants to promote violent assaults in some settings, in some ways, against certain targets, but not against others. So in this time, it has come up with labels such as discipline and spanking. But remember, the actions and all the intents are exactly the same. For example, if you would have your so-called own children and spank them, you could say, oh, I'm disciplining my child because I don't like the way he spoke to me. But that's just an assault, folks. The actions are the same, the effect is the same, and if anything, the effect on a little kid would be even more. But if I was to go down to my local supermarket and somebody spoke shortly with me, and I gave him a good hearty bitch slap, I'd be instantly charged with assault, even though the actions are exactly the same, and I'm picking on somebody my size rather than cowardly a little child. So as you can see, these words are just made up, just simply to help promote society's endless stream of lies and its totally hypocritical stance in supporting and sponsoring some actions in some settings against certain people, and then saying they're not acceptable in others. Again, all the hitting actions should just be called assault, and they should all be dealt with the same way. For example, they could all be allowed, they could all be ignored, they could have that kind of thing. So it's a consistent thing, and that's just the only truth-based way for society to define words and undertake its business. Now, word definition brainwashing, folks, is actually very, very effective. For example, with abortion, they just say, oh, abortion is legal, murder is illegal, therefore abortion is not murder. And these flimsy, pathetic word games that are actually logically fallacious are enough to convince most people and allow them to delude themselves that they are performing different actions, or somehow their actions are righteous and the other people who are doing the exact same actions are not righteous, just simply by, again, a flimsy and pathetic word game. Society has been extremely successful in managing to manipulate these situations and promote them by this rather cheap, shallow tactic. And folks, that reflects on you, loyal mainstream supporters of society, because you people are pathetic and your whole way of thinking is flimsy and deranged. This has been Travis Truman, and you can find expert and detailed analysis of today's topic at my website. The link, of course, is appearing on your screen. This is a rather lengthier video than usual, folks, so thanks for sticking with us, and I'll see you next time on C. Travis's Truth